a foul in basketball? A foul is when you break the rules to create an advantage on offense or defense. What is a violation in basketball? A violation is an action that's not allowed in the rules of the game. That simple. Called a personal foul. A personal foul is illegal contact. Defensively, what can that look like? If an offensive player, I'll put it this way, is driving, they have the right to drive straight. They have the right to go around me. They can't go through me. However, if I impede their progress of going straight illegally, meaning they were going, I bump them off their line. Now, I might bump them once, but if I keep bumping them continuously off their line, that's illegal contact. That's called a blocking call. Non-verbally, referee blows the whistle. They'll give a sign that looks like this non-verbally to the scoring table so they know to call a blocking call. That's a personal foul against you. Offensively, what can illegal contact look like? It's called a charge. Non-verbally, this is the call. What happens? Now, chair's in position to play defense. I have the right to go around. I can't go through them technically. However, I go through them and knock them down. That's a charge. They call that also a player control foul. I have the opportunity to step around tightly through the chair. I chose to go right through the chair to knock the chair over. The defense has the right to play defense and get their feet set. I said, you know what? I'm gonna send a signal. I'm not gonna stop. I'll knock them over. That's a player control foul. Those are personal fouls. First category. The second category, we have what's called technical fouls. The second category, we have what's called technical fouls. This is unsportsmanlike conduct. This is when, for example, referee called a charge against Coach Charlie. Coach Charlie went to the basket, knocked the player over. Referee says, blows the whistle, Coach Charlie, player control foul, charge. Coach Charlie then becomes unsportsmanlike. He gets out of character and he puts his palms at the ref. He charges the ref with his hands pointing. He walks off obsessively upset, trying to show up the ref. Then the ref does what? Technical foul. That's unsportsmanlike conduct. That's character, that's detrimental, that's negative, that represents the game. Rightfully so. It happens a lot of times when you're heated and you're playing with emotions. And we get emotional, we get more negative. Happen to coaches. Sometimes happen to parents. They get upset. You get a warning, hey, calm down. You don't want to calm down, you put the palms up to the referee, you try to show up the referee, they show you up by throwing AT, a technical. That's the second type of category, unsportsmanlike conduct.
We say chop the clock. In order to start the clock, the proper performance of the starting the clock is like you're chopping wood. Here's an example of a good chop the clock. All right, the next signal in the rules book, it tells us 4 reasons to stop the clock. Okay, and in a violation and a timeout, we stop the clock, as you can see the little diagram, by putting our arm directly up in the air and open palm. The next one would be held ball. We put our arm up for held ball, and then we give the signal. Why is it important that we have an open hand or a fist to distinguish between a violation or a foul or any of the other points? Why is that important? Who are we communicating to? Your partners. Your partners need to know why you're blowing your whistle, because they are the ones that are going to help move the game along while you're showing your signals or going to the table or whatever you may do to administer what you just called. Your partners know exactly what's going on. It's important for the coach and the players and the fans. Fouls. These are important because if you don't give the proper signal for what happened, good coaches actually try to coach their kids as to what they did wrong so they don't do it wrong again. All right? Now, there's a few I want to point out. Illegal use of the hand. All right, now, I don't believe the signal has any motion arrows, but it's generally you'll hit one arm on top of the other, but you want to have it down low by your waist area, because if you have it higher, what could it possibly look like? An intentional foul, right? Wow. You cross your arms for an intentional foul above your head. So the higher you do a illegal use of the hand signal, the more it may look like an intentional foul. So try to avoid that. Other thing I want to point out is it is not an open hand, so make sure you have a closed fist. Holding and hand check, 2 other signals that look very similar, do they not? So when you give a hold signal, you want your arm up and you're grabbing your arm and you're holding your own arm from extending away from you. That's how I think about it. I'm holding my arm. I'm not letting my arm go. For a hand check, you're going to extend your arm out as if you want to touch the player, hand check the player, and you put your hand around your wrist, but you're reaching out with your hand. Okay. Block. Hands on your hips. A lot of people like to use the fists. It's not the fists. That to me is less important as long as you have a good, strong signal. I want to give you an example of what not to do when you give a block signal. Don't flap your arms like a bird. I know this official is trying to sell the call, trying to make everyone know I've got the call, that's a block. But when you do it over and over and over, to me, it just looks goofy. And I'm going to say, if you got to sell it that hard, maybe it wasn't. Instead, I'd rather see a signal look like this. One motion, you can start up at your head and come down. One motion, nice and strong, swift. It just looks cleaner. It looks more confident. It looks more decisive. When you call a foul, every time you call a foul, you are to give a preliminary sequence. Just like a violation, you're going to first stop the clock with your fist in the air. You're going to then give the signal of the foul, whatever it is, push, illegal use of the arm. You're going to point the direction the ball is going to go and where the ball is going to be put in play. Or if it's a shooting foul, it would be the subsequent action that's going to happen. Information. All of these signals provide information to those watching the game. The first one being a visible count. Proper way to count is perpendicular to your body, back and forth, not high up in the air, perpendicular to your body. All right, here is an example of starting a new count. And this is primarily in a closely guarded situation, but if you start a new count, you need to signify to everyone that it's a new count by changing your hand. Everybody understand that concept, yes? All right, back in subs. You see on this little diagram, the full motion of the forearm, back and forth, the full motion of the forearm. Motion, here's an example. All right, little fingers. Oh, they didn't see them. Now I'm going to do like a finger wag. Tipped ball. Just how do we do it? It's just like you hit your fingers like the ball went off your fingers. Here's an example of when not to do the signal. Okay, we got a foul on this play, but if you watch the lead, and I'm going to split the screen here so you can see. If you watch the lead, what is the lead doing? Wait a second, was it a block shot or was it a foul? You've got one official calling a foul and one official calling a block shot. Sure makes it messy. And now one coach can say, but he said it was clean. How can you see it? Especially the guy who was 30 feet away is now saying it's a foul, and the guy who was 5 feet away is saying it wasn't. I want to talk about traveling. Okay, the proper way to give the traveling signal is 2 or 3 rotations of the arms. You're not going to go super fast. You're not going to go super slow, and you're not going to do more than 3. It's not an open hand. Even though we stop the clock with an open hand, we don't bring the open hands then in and move them around. You could make the right call and look not really good, and you're going to get chewed up and spit out. I've seen it time and time again. The backcourt signal is a full back and forth with the hand. And again, online, it's not as good to show, but if you don't have a full back and forth, what could this signal look like? A little bit smaller of the wrist, like a carry or palming, right? So if you do a big from the back to the front, when I perform a backcourt violation signal, I literally point in the back court to the front court. Kicking violation is only when it is intentionally kicked. So just because the ball hits the foot or the leg does not make it a kicking violation. There is a sequence that we need to give every time we blow our whistle for a violation. The sequence goes stop the clock, right, with the hand up in the air with open palm. Then you give the signal of the violation, whatever it is, if it's traveling or carry or backcourt, whatever that is, you give that signal. You point the direction that the ball is going to go, and then you point to the spot where the throw-in is going to occur. All right, official blew their whistle, stopped the clock, gave a carry signal, which was the violation, pointed the direction the ball is going to go, and then to the spot where the throw-in is going to be.